Assalamu alaikum. My name is Chris Abdurrahman Blavel, and I'm going to be presenting LaunchGood. So here's the deal. I became Muslim in June of 2001. 3 months later, 9/11 happened. Shook me up, it shook up our whole community up, and it forced me to go on a deeper journey to discover really what's Islam about and who are Muslims. And what I discovered is, despite everything you hear in the media, we have an awesome community. Muslims doing amazing stuff all over the world, and we have this legacy, a tremendous legacy we left behind. So I went into film to redefine that major narrative, and I was a producer for a 2010 Sundance film called Bilal's Stand. At that time, we needed some funds. We turned to one of the early crowdfunding platforms called Kickstarter, and that introduced me to the world of crowdfunding. I discovered in crowdfunding an amazing tool that can empower and transform communities. It's something that our community needs, and I decided to start it, and that is LaunchGood. LaunchGood is a crowdfunding platform supporting incredible Muslims across the world doing great work. If you don't know what crowdfunding is, it's a very simple concept. It's bringing together a crowd of people to fund a project. You set a financial goal, a deadline to raise that money, you make a pitch, you incentivize donations with rewards, and you get out and spread the word. Since it started, it's quickly grown into a $10 billion market, and it's doubling about every year. It's not slowing down anytime soon, so it's a great market to be in. And it's a market where one platform can make a difference. So I bring up the example of Kickstarter, which I mentioned earlier. In just 5 years, it's raised over $1 billion, completely transforming the creative market in America. And it's not just the quantitative impact, but it's also the qualitative impact. We see now Samsung and Apple coming out with all these smartwatches. That was actually all kicked off by the Pebble Watch, a Kickstarter campaign several years ago. So why LaunchGood? First and foremost, LaunchGood was built uniquely to serve the needs of the Muslim community. It's our brand, which we like to call Simply Muslim, that focuses on everything going right in the community. We also provide personal individualized support for every project. We allow for offline donations, something you won't find on major competitors. And we've developed this amazing base of donors where almost every other donor on LaunchGood becomes a repeat backer, not just twice, but 3 times. Who do we serve? We serve all sorts of projects, small to large. It could be people trying to make a difference in their community or for themselves. It could be entrepreneurs like Naduna creating the world's first hijabi fitness DVD. And it could be large organizations and nonprofits like Tetleave or the Muslim Enrichment Project in Michigan supporting the needs of converts. We just celebrated our first year. We're about a year and a month old now. And so I'm excited to share those numbers with you, although he spoiled it for me. In our first year, we've alhamdulillah, been able to raise over $1 million for projects, for over 100 projects. That's almost 5,000 donors spanning 13 countries. And compared to the major platforms of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, we have a higher success rate, a higher average pledge, and raise more money per project on average. It's a bit surreal to have been going through this experience the first 6 months. We're pretty slow and steady, and just took off after that. We'd have a very simple business model where we take 5% of the funds raised. In the next 5 years, we plan to become the best international crowdfunding platform in the world, hands down. And in that process, we seek to have centers all across the world in major urban Muslim centers, raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and more importantly, inspiring and motivating thousands and thousands of Muslims to tap into their creative and entrepreneurial selves and do good for the world. There's a lot of challenges and opportunities, but I think no opportunity greater than the fact that we have 1.6 million Muslims waiting for an opportunity to do good, and we're the platform to help them. We have an amazing team that's talented, diverse, young, experienced, and to sum it up, to quote Paul Graham, we're relentlessly resourceful. If we were to win today, we'd use this money to start our international expansion of the website. That includes launching LaunchGood UK by 2015. We are here. First and foremost, the best way we can help people is connecting with you. All you guys are LaunchGooders, and if we can help you raise money, please come see me, my co-founder. And these are the 3 questions I'll leave for after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. So Shama and I are going to take this company, and Shama, you can go first.
I'm going to ask another question, but I'm curious, how did you become Muslim? That's my first question. What inspired you?
I need like half an hour for that, but really, really quickly. Grew up Christian, became atheist, had that guy you saw in the presentation, Mike Dan, he's my neighbor. He converted to Islam at 15. I followed him at 16. Also, the autobiography of Malcolm X made a big impact.
Well, that's very inspirational. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I really loved your presentation. That was the first thing I noticed, that it was, I understood everything. That is very important. We don't realize so many times that we are writing stuff that other people don't understand. My question to you is that when you're thinking about growing this more in the Muslim community, have you thought about doing any of more customization to target some specific type of entrepreneurs or communities? Because as we are learning that more and more customization result into better targeting, so that I was just curious about that.
So one of the innovations, and I didn't have a chance to talk about today, is we created this thing called community pages in LaunchGood. And so let's say you are a mosque and you want to create a gym floor. This is a real project, so you want to create a gym floor. So you can create a community page for your mosque and raise money for your gym floor, and your mosque will be listed on that community page. And the more projects you do, the more, if someone clicks on your community page, the more projects you'll see under you. But it's not limited to your community. So if you're partnering, now your mosque is partnering with, let's say, a Muslim Boy Scouts group. They too can have a community page. You can do a project together, and both your communities will be listed. And what we find is by giving people the chance to create community pages, they have an incentive to come back and keep using us. And everything in a sense is customized because we work so closely with every project. Obviously at this stage, like 100 projects might sound like a lot, but it's not. Every project defines us. So we're really intentional about what goes out. We've had about almost 500 projects apply. Only 100 have gone live. Sorry.
Justice here. So I guess I'm up. And by the way, I want to say this is really a great presentation, as Shama was saying it. One of the few that I've seen that has a pro forma worked out with all the costs and expenses. So I commend you on your financial acumen, and it's very viable. It's not really out there. I had a couple of quick questions. One was, you have offline and online, which I thought was interesting. That's not normal for crowdfunding.
No,
so
it's not.
Can you explain why that is? And it seems like the offline is a much bigger, if not 2x, the revenues of online.
Yes, yeah. So one day I'd like to kill off the offline, but the reality is our community is so used to offline donations, right? You want to raise money, you go to a fundraising dinner, you cut a check. Even so many people in our community are almost like conspiratorial about donating online, and they don't want to give their credit cards up. And so we found it was a real need of our community to allow people to process checks. Whereas if you use Indiegogo and Kickstarter, you actually have to, it's annoying, you have to donate to yourself and then use your credit card and put it into the project. And so we've been trying something out called hybrid dinners, so we'll have a fundraising dinner, but instead of limiting it to the people there, you can say, everyone get your smartphone out, share this project on Facebook, on Twitter, ask your friends to donate to it. And that's been somewhat successful, not as successful as hoped, but it gives on average about a 5 to 10% boost to dinner fundraising dinner.
So that's more community events, and you're collecting checks, or it's not being done online, but you're collecting checks or credit cards at the event?
They actually do it themselves. So the way we have it, there's this, if you're an admin, there's a button that said add offline donation. It has all the fields. This was their name, the amount, as a check or as a pledge, and their address. Okay.
And if you could explain a little bit about your model. Are you a reward-based crowdfunding model, or are you thinking of migrating to an equity-based crowdfunding model, or are you happy with where you are?
Yeah, right now we're rewards-based, which means that you may get something for your donation, like a T-shirt, but you don't own the company, right? We would like to look into equity. Right now, I think you guys might be feeling it's kind of a crazy situation out there right now, at least in the U.S. and internationally. You have to deal with all sorts of regulations.
Right.
But definitely, I think in the future, it'd be great, even for ourselves. The way I see it is within maybe about 5 years, we'd like to start a venture capital part of LaunchGood, because we have our ear to the ground. So if a great startup comes along the way and we can see, hey, this has some real traction, let's not just support them in crowdfunding, but let's invest in them.
And one quick question: do you find that the funding model of a lot of crowdfunding models are the bathtub model, right? So you get a lot of interest at the beginning and a lot of interest at the end, and basically this void in the middle.
Yep.
Because you're more community-based, do you find it's a little more flatlined, or is it still that type of typical crowdfunding model?
It's pretty much the same.
Right.
It's pretty much the same, yeah.
Now you have 3.5 minutes to ask questions of us.
Great. Can I pull up the screen from before? We can look at myself. All right, I'm just going to jump into them. I have them memorized. The first is my 3 questions, and I'll let you choose to answer what you feel most specialized in. What advice do you have for us for marketing the platform, especially outside the mosque? We find that many of the people that donate on LaunchGood are not actually regular mosque goers, but they identify as Muslim. So how to reach that population. 2, how to effectively expand internationally. So we do a lot of international projects. They're a bit of a headache, especially once you get to the Middle East. Financial regulations are a nightmare. And then the third is, and I do want everyone to answer this that is answering, what projects would you like to see on LaunchGood that you'd actually donate to?
So when I talked about customization, I've learned that most businesses can grow more effectively when they're targeting a particular segment. So that's one idea I have for you, that if you could think about developing some factions where you're connecting tech entrepreneurs to tech people or healthcare to healthcare, because people like to invest in businesses that they understand.
Yeah.
So that is one avenue you could do, and you can also think about developing partnerships across the globe as you're looking at different geographies. It doesn't have to be Muslims. I run the Entrepreneurs Club for my business school, and oftentimes because of the expertise, I invite people outside of Michigan Network. So I've had people come from Harvard and Wharton speak at my events because they have that industry expertise.
Yeah. That's great, thank you.
And in terms of the marketing, the platform, what I found was phenomenal was your addressable market, where you mentioned that the Muslim population is 2.5%, but Muslim crowdfunding is only 0.1%.
Yeah,
so there's like a huge gap there. And right after 9/11, a lot of charities were shut down, and a lot of Muslim groups they don't have a trustworthy platform to invest in charitable causes. So I would say between those two dynamics right now and what you've shown is a huge gap in adoption among, by the way, a demographic that's high app adopters, in technology. I would say that your marketing should be focused on them. And for me, I wouldn't even do international. I think, like Akia says, America is a big place. You have a lot of opportunity here.
Great, thank you.
Chris, one thing that I want to make sure you walk away with, I don't know if you know the business model called Circle Up. They do crowdsourcing, but in the consumer retail space.
Yeah.
You should look at them, because what they're trying to do now is go out to venture capital and private equity firms. On the back end, it's an additional source of income for them, because if the businesses that you're funding end up becoming big numbers, and you'll have, at some point, institutional investors interested in them. So you can figure out some back-end sharing with those firms, which is exactly what Circle Up is doing with VCs and consumer investment firms. So I'm happy to talk about that if you feel interested.
Actually, I'd love that. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the panel?
Yeah, your last question. I would encourage you to continue to think of downstream integration, and even beyond venture capital, really look at, because eventually these securities are going to be traded.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk in the marketplace about establishing a trading platform, a risk-prudent trading platform for crowdfunding, and then you get into the whole settlement field and whatever. So it would seem to me, if you've got that kind of deal flow coming through the front end and they're quality deals, you're in a very good position to expand that technology platform.
I agree, thank you.
I have one more comment. Your personality and your personal side that you became Muslim, maybe you can brand it a little bit better somehow to reach people, especially in the Muslim community.
Sure.
It's a big thing. When you told us, I was very interested about that first, right? So reaching especially the investors, that could be, I'm sure you're doing that already, but you can think about maybe how to brand that a little bit better.
Okay, great. Maybe we could talk about that later.
And to the point that was made earlier, are you focusing strictly on the Muslim community?
Our goal right now in the U.S. is that's our niche to grow. As we expand internationally, we become the ethical or values-based crowdfunding platform.
Well, to Adnan's point, I'm not sure you need to even leave the U.S., but you're in a field that's very, very popular right now, not only in this community, but in a variety of different communities. And so just think about the scope of your overall market as you go forward.
I would exactly dovetail on that point, that you could think about it in the context of a faith-based value system.
Sure.
You have a strong community of Mormons out there, evangelicals, There's a lot of groups out there in this day and age that would really be attracted to a model that's as clean as yours in terms of its holistic value. So I would suggest you look outside your current box and go there.
Yeah, the African American church community, for example, which is quite well organized and really needs a model like this, would be a natural for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what projects would you guys donate to? Have any of you donated yet to a project?
Have any of your competitors today signed up on your platform?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
That might answer your first question.
Women's empowerment.
Women's empowerment?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I would say both women's empowerment and empowerment of the African American community.
Great.
Yeah, that is, just to echo that, I mean, that's a community right now that is under a lot of strain because of the wealth and asset gap. So the African American community, the Hispanic community in the United States, and there's more entrepreneurialism in those communities than people realize. And yet they need a platform like this to get themselves into the financial markets. So those are two areas that I would really encourage you to network within.
Okay, we're going to have to close it up. I just want to also comment that Chris tried to get into this 2 years ago,
Yes.
and he didn't. LaunchGood didn't make the cut. So it's amazing that you stuck with it, and your resilience is to be commended. So thank you
Thank you very much. Thank you.